Good morning and welcome to Everland by Jill. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you stopping by. I am working on the Threads of Intention project, and today I thought I would show you where I've gotten with the cover. I have the inside cover stitched, and I'm going to sew in my signatures for this project. If you haven't seen my first video, it explains about the project and got me started where I'm at, and so we will go from there. So without further ado, let's get started on this. Oh, I forgot to ask you. I hope you're all doing well. I don't like it when I forget to ask you how you're doing, because your viewing means so much to me that I'm anxious to get started with more things that you might enjoy. So forgive me if I am lax in asking you how you are, and thank you for all of your support and all of your likes and everything. So let's take another look at the cover first. I've added this little piece of lace. I wove wool. That's wool, very hand-dyed, 100% merino wool that I threaded through there. And I thought that looked like kind of like a little heart. So I put a little medallion there. I've stitched everything on. I think you saw the circles, but I don't believe you saw this. This is also blanket stitch. So textural and so lovely. I just love that. And I added a little, I stamped on cloth, tea dyed it. And I was doing that to test my archival ink to make sure it was still archival and would stay well defined after I tea dyed it, and it did. So I added that there. I think you saw this back, and I think you might not have seen this back. I don't remember. Again, those are blanket stitch, and these are just long and short stitches, and I followed this circle theme throughout. So that's going to be the outside of the journal. So you look at the inside, and it's not an ugly backstory, but I don't like those. I may change those, fix those up so they're not bumpy lumpy. Okay, so what am I putting inside of here? And that's what we talk about today. So I'm going to put inside of this piece here, where and I think I can show you now that how this is going to go together. I don't want to get up in your face with the camera. Hopefully you could see. It's going to go like this. And this inside, I've already done lots of running stitch on it. Not to say I won't do more, but you can see how that's going to fit together there. This is my spine for my signatures, right? And then I'm going to move you just a little bit this way because my work is too far away from me. Thank you. And this is where my signatures are going to be stitched in. And then the back cover goes to here. And then from here, it'll be the front of the book. I'm not taking this off yet because I think I'm going to put something between the two layers that will help. I know I'm going to put the wrap between there, and then it will help when this wraps over. So you'll have to pull that back to see the wonderful surprises underneath. So I did that running stitch. I did a little bit of cantha stitching in those corners, and keep in mind I can do more. I may put more on these pages. I don't know. I want to keep the intention of the project intact, which is Threads of Intention. And so without further ado on that, I think you understand how that's going to go together. Let's think about stitching in these signatures. Now, you know we're going to have 26 pieces. I also hope you're crafting along with me. We're going to have 26 pieces going into this little journal. And it looks little now, but I have a feeling it's going to at least double in size. maybe a little more, depending on each insert that we put in. And I think this is my bookbinding stitch book, my bookbinding needle book. So bear with me while I get in. I don't know if you can see it. You should watch me when I put all of my bookbinding things in here. I put in some threads, wax threads for stitching. I put in a couple of pins. These are my bookbinding needles that I bought special for bookbinding. These are, I guess you could call them, that's my little aught of bookbinding thread for little books. And then I have some more bookbinding thread back in here, different colors. Oh. And this is a little thicker, and it really doesn't matter what color I'm going to use, because when I stitch this on, if you're looking over here now, look over here, this is the outside cover. But you notice I didn't attach these together yet, because I'm going to stitch my signatures in, and I'm going to go through to here. I'm not going to go clear through the outside cover. And I wanted you to see that. Now I'm going to remove the outside cover just to make sure I don't catch it with the needle. And so that leads to what color thread am I going to use. And for that, let's take a look at what did I do with the paper signatures? Oh, I put them in the book. Oh my goodness. Sometimes I make myself laugh. I'm sorry. I hope I made you laugh too. You were probably all yelling at me, Jill, they're right there. They're right there in front of you. And I think I will use this color. I don't think I need this thick of a thread for that. No. So let's put these away. This was a fun project, this needle book. I had made a needle book prior for my regular stitching. And then I do a lot of journals. So I found I was doing a lot of bookbinding. I kept searching for my needles and searching for my wax threads. And I thought, why don't I make a needle book for my bookbinding stuff? So that's what I did here, as you can see. I thought it came out pretty cute. And my little closure thing, I don't think I have a video on this, but my little closure thing was inspired by Corey Damon, Creating with Scraps. So I think I'm going to use this. Now I've gone for 5 holes instead of 3, and I'll tell you why. Because I am going to be putting in pages that are going to hold fabric, and I wasn't sure, but I thought they might get a little more stress on the pages. So the other thing I don't do is I usually do not. It's a little harder with these that are on a wrappy thing like this. But I don't cut that string off yet. I can use this string and do all of the stitching, and that way I'm not wasting thread. So let me get a needle that has, here they are. These ones I like. Very long and big eye. They don't take much to thread. Not like our normal machine cotton that's just very thin. Now, you can really start almost anywhere. I'm going to, as you can see, I measured these, and I poked the holes here, and I poked the holes here. So since I'm going to remove 2 of these, I'm going to start with the back signature. The last signature first always seems to work well for me. And I'm going to start on the outside in the middle. And you can watch me do a couple of these, and if you get bored, skip on ahead. Once I get these in, I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about putting the front cover, attaching it to the back cover. So if you want to bear with me for a little bit, we'll get there. I'm just going to go every other hole, in and out, just weaving through, in and out. I think it might be easier if I hold it this way. And this is just so that I can see what I'm doing along with you being able to see what I'm doing. So everybody's got to see what we're doing here. Oops, come here, and thank you. So in we go. Now this seems a little awkward, and it can be. These needles, as you saw, are very, very thick, so they take a bit to pull through. Okay, now I'm going to start my way back down, so I'm going to go back through areas where I went through, and the only thing I have to be concerned about is not stitching through the thread that is already there. I do not want to catch that thread. So let me see if I can get my arm around this. So yeah, I wanted to get this video done earlier, and I had a visitor come by, and we sat and we were chatting, and they were having coffee. I don't every morning have a coffee. So we were chatting and time passed, and so I'm a little later than I hoped getting this in for you. When I'm done, you should see that I don't have any double threads on any of those. There we go. Pull that out a little bit. Now I'm going to come all the way down. I'm going to pass over the middle hole, and I'm going to do the bottom two. Now a 3-hole pamphlet stitch probably would be enough, but let me tell you something about a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. It can be good if you have different size pages, because it will you can see it'll capture the short pages while also stabilizing your taller pages. And so that's one thing that's good about. Now it looks like, you know what? I think I put this in here upside down, and I'll tell you why. See how that is, this is going over the top. I think I did a bad thing. I did not mark the top of my page when I started, but that's not a problem. I'm going to unstitch this, turn my pages around, and start over, but I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and you can see now that had I marked the top of my signatures, I would have known this one went here. Much more pleasing that these pages fit where they're supposed to, within the height of the back cover. Okay, I'm going down there. Oops, I'm standing up, and I pulled that right toward myself, which meant you cannot see. Okay, and back down through here, and you can see it ends up just very similar to a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, only just a bit. Let's pull that tight there. Pull it tight everywhere before I get going into the middle of the back seam. Just 1 second. Everything's it's all happening. It's all happening. I believe I did stitch into that thread. So what is that going to cause? And I don't edit these parts out of my videos. Let me explain. Because this is an error that can happen anytime to anybody, and sure, if you're super careful, maybe it won't happen, but eventually you might have to deal with that. So what I am actually going to do, because I picked a very thick thread, is I am going to snip the one tiny thread, the one tiny piece, and I know you can't see it, but I could see it, that I stitched through. Now, I have a little bit of a shadow, so let me get rid of that. And let me just look here what part I stitched through right there. And let's hope that solved that problem. So we can test that. Yes, see, now I can pull that through. But it was one tiny thread of this waxed thread, and it won't hurt the integrity. Now, if you stitch through the middle of it, I wouldn't probably do it that way, but I would have to figure a way to take my stitch out. And then we're on our way again. Now this thread that I brought through the same center hole where we started at. And you can see both of my threads that I've been weaving with, or sewing with, are on the same side of this center thread. Well, we're going to do a couple things here because I don't want that. I want one on one side of that center thread and one on the other. And then I want to be sure that all of my, I don't need my needle anymore. I just want to be sure that all of my threads are pulled nice and tight. And this is going to, I'll show you in a minute. I'll put it up against the, so now that one's tight. And this one goes through the center. I know it's a lot of flipping back and forth. Please bear with me. And this will be this one. So now I've got them all nice. This one will tighten up when I tie this knot in the center. You can see all of these are nice and tight. And what is this doing for me? This is putting my threads and my knots on the back side. And I pull this pretty tight. It's wax thread, so it's going to be hold itself very nicely. I'm going to take my just mash that down a little bit. It mashes that knot. And the thing is, it stays there because it's wax. So I should get my other scissors for that. And this will go in my aught, but I don't waste any thread. Okay. So that's the first signature in. Let's take a look. Here we go. Now it'll take a little getting used to. You should also note that I don't worry about these edges being even. Not in this type of a journal, and that's because when we add these pages that have fabric on them, they're not all going to be even anyway, right? At least perhaps in your books they are, but in mine they are not. So let me get these all. I have a runny nose again today. Ugh. But you know what? Woke up this morning and we've had pretty cloudy weather lately. But it did warm up there for a while, and that should be the absolute sign to me that something's coming. And I woke up this morning, cloudy skies, and snow covered all over the ground. And it's pretty chilly out there. So my nose and my sinuses will act up. There we go, and our first signature is in there. And you'll see that when we put the, just in case you want to scoot ahead and not watch the rest of this video, let me show you so when I attach, excuse me, this inside cover to the outside cover, you can see there's no need for me to have any stitching here. You'll barely even be able to see the ridges. Now, I want to put something on here. I don't know what that is yet. So I have a piece of lace set aside for this. And I have some antique fabric set aside for this. So it will be going on, but I can put that on after the signatures are attached and the inside cover is attached to the front cover. So that's why I haven't done that yet. I also wanted to be sure about the placement. So I want to attach this to my front cover so my spine is as close to where it's supposed to be as close as it should be. Let me get my next signature and let's make sure we put this one in top to bottom. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to switch needles. This one seemed a little bit thick. I'm going to switch to this one. And you know, it's funny because when you go to make a video and then you get company or you get a phone call or whatever, and I put my phone on airplane mode so I don't get calls. And I have a couple reminders in my calendar, but when you get those interruptions, I sometimes get anxious to, I so want to make the video that I get a little anxious, and I have to remember, and this is good for me because I have to remember and remind myself that I want to do slow stitching and slow crafting, whether I'm making a journal or whether I'm making something totally just a fabric project. And I want to remind myself to slow down. But generally when someone is possibly waiting on me to get something posted, then I get a little like, I don't want to be late getting it up for you guys. And so hopefully when we post this, it will go up on time, even though I'm running a little late today because of my little bit of company. Now I'm going to be very careful not to go through that thread. Okay, there we go. Yes, this needle's much better. I'm not struggling with the, I'm going to go all the way down past the center hole. Now I wouldn't have to do that. I could go through the center hole and come up here and go down there and come back, but I prefer to cross over, go all the way down, and come back to the center for, and you could stagger that too if you're worried about where the whoops, I think I'm getting through some pages and not all. Bear with me 1 minute while I pay attention. After all, I want that to go to there. Oh. I'm looking at it from the wrong side. Oh, there we go. Up, down, through there, and through there. I'm pulling that kind of tight. Let's save some time later. Let's check that one. Probably need tightened up later. Being careful not to catch my thread on that one. And you can see I came up beside of it. Back down through the center. Don't catch that. I won't be able to tighten it up. And this time, just like as the last time, I want to come up with a thread on either side of that center line, and I have done that. So let me look in the center here. It could be a little tighter there. Huh. Let's try that. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Thread on either side. Double knot. Right over left. Left over right. Snip, snip. Ought jar, my little ought section, my bone folder. Is to match, and you know what? There's hardly a lump there when you use your bone folder and it's wax thread. You can hardly even feel that knot. Now I'm going to use a couple of different adhesives. I'm going to use a double-sided tape, I believe, and my bookbinder's glue to hook this spine into the other cover. Let's look at that one. We'll go through all those pages when I have the next one completed. Where are you? Here you are. Let me be sure I have that lined up the way it's supposed to be. And now this is the first signature. Okay. I have all my threads here I've been using, and I have quite a mess, which happens every time I craft, as it should, right? Let me take a minute and get that wound up out of my way. Get some of this pretty wax thread. I get my wax thread off of Amazon, I believe I got it off of. I would rather buy off of an Etsy shop and give my support to the small shop owners if I can find it. I bought my bookbinding needles off of Etsy from a little shop that had specialty, had just what I wanted for bookbinding needles. I don't like to use sharp needles, for one, because when you're using sharp needles, you can of course pierce your paper where you don't intend, and you can also pierce fabric where you don't intend, and for the most part, it may not be a problem for many of you, but for me, especially if the fabric tends to keep, what do I want to say? The fabric tends to keep it doesn't close up after you've poked a hole in it. Some do, and some don't. And if it doesn't, then you poke with a sharp needle through that material, you can end up with those holes remaining visible in your finished piece. Okay, we're on our way back down on our last and third signature. I did think about making 5 signatures, and I thought, would that be better, since we're going to be putting fabric samples basically in here with stitching on them. And I just decided, oops, caught myself, and I just decided, no. I didn't want to have a signature that only had like 2-3 pages in it. That would be exceptional if I was doing maybe a mixed media that was really putting some thickness on a page. Then and I don't use any of my watercolor paper on a lot of my projects because it's very thick, and while I love the texture of it and all, it does make for very thick finish on your product. Okay, back down through here. Let's not catch that where we don't want it. Not coming up in the hole there. Hold on. Get it? She will persevere, and she will. Oh, that's perfect. Get it. In the end, I will get it. I'm going to pull that tight. Pull that kind of tight. Make sure that's tight on my way out this hole. And again, I want that on the other side of my thread, as you can see there. It should be good outside. You can see that my hole was a little bit out of line down here. It should have been over a little farther. Doesn't matter because those stitches are not going to show anyway. This looks good on the inside. I have one thread to either side of my center. right double knot, right over left, left over right. I don't know how many times to show you something. I mean, if you only need one time to be shown, then hey, that's good. Some people need more, and some people need to do it with you or do a hands-on, which you can pause the video and move forward, backward, you know, whatever you need. And snip, and those are done. So now let's take a look at them, and let me put this away. Whoops. Put that in there where it goes. Where did I, here's my needle. Let's put that back where it goes. And I don't need this book anymore, so don't need my bookbinding tools anymore, so bear with me. It's part of my ethos to do my cleanup as I'm doing my crafting. That's my sewing one. Is that my ethos? I don't know. It might be our ethos, right? Everybody out there wants to keep things neat and tidy. Oh boy, how often does that not happen? Like every time you go in your craft room to do something. I see some crafters have these beautiful, beautiful craft rooms, and I like to be organized, and sometime I can show you some things I do that especially keep me organized. But that's not for today. That's for another time. There we go. So now all my signatures are in. And you can see it's kind of a waterfall effect there on the pages, and that's fine. You can see that each signature has a nice amount of space in between. There we go. And also between the last page and the back of the book, and the first page and the front of the book, which I like that. So I'm going to just go through and press these down real quick. All these pages are definitely blank right now. We haven't got anything on them. I'm going to start the 26 projects. As you know, this is following through on K3N's A to Z project, although I call mine Threads of Intention because I'm trying to be very careful and pay attention to what I choose to put in here, how I choose to put it in, how I choose to enhance it, and so on. And my thoughts and things will be different. So with that in mind, I haven't started those 26 little projects yet. And I love a lot of my things in book form, and we've already done that first signature, so that's okay. So you can see how this is going to end up. That's what my book is going to be, how thick to start with. Maybe I should measure that. It would be a trick, wouldn't it, to measure it and then see how big it's going to be when it's all done. So as you can see, these are going to go together. This is going to wrap around the back. And then that's going to go like that. All our pages will fill up. Hopefully they fill up. And then this is where I talked about having a 2-inch spine at the back. You need to allow your cover, if you're going to wrap it over, to have a 2-inch space on also this edge here. I talked about that in the prior video. So that when your book gets thick, you still have the wrap part coming over the front. And with that in mind, as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing something additional here. I've got a little, and I'm going to do something additional here, but this is probably, can you see where I'm pointing? Yes. This is probably going to wait until I get ready to do the wrap, and that will be at the very end because I want to see how thick are my pages going, how thick is my book going to get, right? At the very end of this project. So my next step is to put the front cover to the back cover. I think I've got all my stitching done that I intend to get done for right now. So let's look at what I'm prepping to do that. This is the top, front, and that is that is the, oh, you probably can't see where I'm pointing. This is the top of the inside. So I'm going to have my front side down. I don't want to get anything on it. And what else have I prepared? Well, looking at this, I wasn't sure with paper and fabric, but the pages will get, you know, heavy. This is just tea-dyed paper. And I wanted it to be a soft cover. And yet, when I thought about the soft cover, I was concerned that it would be too flexible, too soft, and too, I love it soft, but, you know, it wouldn't have enough stability to really support a book of that dimension. So I created a front piece, and that will go in here. And I created a back piece that will go in here. And I'm debating now whether to put them on the front, attach them on the front cover or the back cover. I could attach them on the inside cover, which I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to attach it here. That way it allows me to see someplace I have to see. I have to see when I do this. I have to see that I leave space at, of course, the top and the bottom. I'm not so concerned about this edge, but I am concerned about this space in here. And for me, that space needs to be, some people measure, I don't measure. But what I do to make sure that it folds nicely is I take the other piece I'm going to use for the back, and I just butt it up against there. And if I get this one up to that one, like that, I will know that this is big enough space for that to fold. Does that make sense to you? It makes really good sense to me. So I'm going to do that here, and I'm going to put one on the back. I'm going to use bookbinder's glue, which is going to get messy. I don't know that you care how to watch my mess and my cleanup of my mess after. But I'm going to do the same thing on that side. And then I'll be back to show you. And then I'll show you how I'm going to attach it to the front, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see here, I've got my first page. I'm holding it down. And while I was doing this, I was thinking of a couple things I didn't show you. So those I'll show you in a moment. And then we are going to have to go away a while before I attach this to, well, I'm trying to think. If I want this to dry before I attach the front cover. There we go. And right in there, you can see me pushing, and I'm right along that line of stitching, is where my, where that gap is in the, and I'm not worried about going out to this edge. And just as an additional note, my front cover is just the tiniest bit bigger than my inside cover. Okay, and you can see here's my little space here, so that this folds nicely. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and attach that. I'm going to move my pages to the other side so that I don't get those involved in my sticky glue, my sticky gluing. I'm going to move those to the other side, make sure that's nice and flat. I'm going to get my other glue side ready to glue, and I'll be back again. Okay, I've got my next piece all glued and ready to attach. I thought I would bring you back so you can see. And since I just need the depth of, or width of this cardstock in the spine for the space, and that didn't come out explained very well, but I just push it up against there real nice and tight, and it will make this line in here perfect size. Now I'm going to burnish this down real good with my, well, if you have a bone folder, you can use a bone folder. I have also this, which is from This is a tool from a Cricut that works really nice for applying things, making sure that they're going to stick. Let me turn it over this way. Let's just go down that inside seam there. Make sure it's all, I don't want to wrinkle up my fabric here, so just lightly burnish that. Clean up the little thread there. So that is bookbinder's glue holding those together. And there it is. Okay. So that's going to be the inside of my book. Now I have some things I want to do to the inside of this. I'll just give you a sneak peek. I'm thinking I want to wait and see whether, I don't know if I'll put our first piece, my first piece here, or if I'll actually put it in here, which means that this page would be blank, which I don't really like. But depending, that's why I have not done this yet, because I thought I could put this little piece here. And so I haven't even finished stitching this on because I may decide to use it separate. But if you look real close, this piece is actually paper, and that's one of my flowers I've created. And then I printed it out. I cut it in an oval shape. I was going to cut it in a heart shape, but really this Threads of Intention is not about hearts. It's about mindful slow stitching. So I decided to slow stitch around an oval onto this textured Hessian back piece. And I thought, now that would go nice. So would it go nice there, or do I need, you know, if I decide to keep that front page blank, or here, I don't know yet. So that's why I got that together and I set it aside. Like I said, I also have thread and thread. I have, I can always do more stitching in these, and I can do more stitching back here. So what I do on this back cover, I could even put this piece on the inside of the back cover, which would look lovely, I think, as well. You know, something like that, or, you know. So on this piece, I am going to put buttons down here. I'm still going to put buttons down here, and I haven't sewed them on yet, but I can still stitch them on. So there we have that. Now, I keep setting things aside, and they're so far aside I can't find them. Hold on. Now I think I'm ready to put my front cover on. I'm going to go through the same thing I did before, which is my bookbinder's glue onto the page. I'm going to put my bookbinder's glue onto the hard page. Oh, and this cardstock I used is actually, the thickness, it's, the best way to describe it is a cereal box double. So sometimes the cereal box is flexible, but it's also a little too flexible for what I wanted. So I put two of them together. So that's about how thick that is. So I'll be putting my bookbinder's glue here, here, and I may even do this piece first. Now I wanted to show you that my front cover is just a bit bigger than my inside cover, as you can see right here. And I like that. I like it. It gives me plenty of room. It allows the front cover to be totally independent and beautiful. And when it goes over, it will come over just the pinch that I need it to come over to look correct. So I'm going to go ahead and get that front cover glued down, and then I'll be back. I also have to take care of my little Mia. She's wanting to go out, and I have to go with her since she can't see very well anymore. So I'm going to go help her, and I'll be back. Okay, so I thought I'd bring you back while I was gluing this on so you could see. I'm definitely using these lines here, which I had made for the spine, to be sure that my spine is falling along there and that it is getting glued on the other side. And then I'll just proceed to lay this down. I'm standing up to make sure I can see over top of I can see the top edge that it's lining up, and get that down. Oh boy, I gotta cut that one off. That's gonna bother me. Okay. Actually, that feels nice. There's the inside all getting ready to dry. Okay, and you can see that after gluing, and I'm going to use my bone folder just to kind of tap it around these places where it could be a little. Want to be sure it's going to adhere nicely and completely. And you can see here after all of that is done that I have very little extra on this edge, which is fine. I made it extra long, a little longer on purpose, and it looks like it's doing its job. Now that doesn't look too straight, but remember, we can fix that. And why isn't this attached? Because that's our wrap, okay? So we're going to deal with that later. And that will not have any kind of cardstock, cardboard, chipboard behind here because I want it to be able to fold nicely. So that's that. Oh, I shouldn't fold this yet, but I will show you that it's going to be all nice when it's done, and then this edge will roll up nicely. So that's what that's going to look like. So I have to run along now, and I have to put this under some very heavy books and let this dry. I'm getting some, this has a little felt side. I'm getting some felt on my fabric here. Oops. Somebody must be walking a dog. So I better go check it out. So listen, thanks for joining me today. Apologies for this interruption with the dogs. I hope you have a great day. Do something you love. And until the next time.